you got to look at 47 in a very peculiar way. 90 days after the Roswell event, CIA was created. The Air Force was separated from the Army. The National Security Act was created. And all those things are mechanisms to start learning more and to start getting private industry off the ground.
So that had nothing to do with World War II. You think it had to do with aliens?
Oh, I absolutely think it. Well, both, because what I believe crashed at Roswell was, I believe it was German from Argentina, but it had hallmarks and technology based on alien technology. So we put out a story saying it's alien, and then we put out a story saying it's a weather balloon. But the real thing it was, we didn't want anyone to guess, and that's why we put those two things out there. And that's kind of how they do it. I think they did that with the moon. It's like, we went to the moon, and then they put out this meme kind of thing like we didn't go to the moon, but they didn't want people really going, well, what's on the moon?
Plausible deniability is something the government has always done, and it's the way they operate, especially when they want to put out very serious information. With this topic, what they've done is they would leak things over the past 60 years and create ridicule for the people that may believe it. That way, everyone kind of hears the stuff. You hear about the Roswell crash, but you're not really scared about it because the chances are it might not be real, but maybe it could be real. But
like Area 51, flying saucers out at S4.
Yeah, exactly. It's all that stuff they want you to know. The reason we talk about it is because they chose for us to hear about it, and the reason we kind of laugh it off is because they, by design, that's how they do it. While we're sitting there, he leans across the table, and this is the very first words that were said to me. It was the Cold War, and every single day we lived under the threat of nuclear war. Every single day, we believed and really thought in the deepest part of our souls that nuclear war could happen at any given moment. And then he stops, and he goes, and somewhere in those years, and he looked me in the eye, he goes, we found a life form. And everything that we did and every decision that we made with that life form was because of the consciousness at that time. And I said, sir, when taking into account things that this life form has done, for example, turning our nuclear weapons on and readying them for launch, and then he interrupts me, puts a finger in my face and says, there are heroes in Russia, heroes. And under grave risk to himself and to his country, they did not fire back. If you really hear what I'm saying about the nuclear weapons, the UFOs were turning our weapons on, and just so Russia could pick up that we're firing our missiles and fire theirs first. It was a big chess game. So these guys went into complete secrecy to start coming up with a defense system against this phenomenon.
When you look back historically, because you're a historian of the subject, what's the one event to you that stands out the strongest where you go, you know what, right here, this is the one we need to talk about?
Potentially Starfish Prime, the nuclear test in space. That was a nuclear test, quote-unquote test, in space. And we learned quite a lot from that test. It was the main test where we really were able to study and learn about EMP. This was also happening during, oddly enough, the Cuban Missile Crisis.
That's right, 1962.
So when the whole world was focused on the Cuban Missile Crisis, something else was going on. And that something else may have brought something down. And that something that brought down we may have learned a lot about that, about EMP specifically, and its ability to catch things that are hiding. Everyone has to remember what happened once we started playing with nuclear weapons. UFOs showed up everywhere.
Every time.
And every time. And you got to think, why? Well, there's a big reason why. Because nuclear weapons will F up those little ankle biters bad, and they know it. And even they, as advanced as they are, they can't get away from it. And makes you really wonder why we did so many nuclear tests. It makes you really wonder why we did like 30,000 tests all over the world, in oceans, underground, up in the sky, and why we all have so many nuclear weapons. The entire Cold War, we were working with the Soviet Union. We were together with them. And it was the one thing that kept the Cold War from going hot, was our relationship together on this issue. We weren't dumb and just went and lit up a nuke when we were in a standoff with Russia, you know, the Cuban Missile Crisis, where everyone's like, oh my God, we're all going to die. And we said, well, then we might as well do a nuke test. You know, it's like, no, it didn't work that way. They knew we did the nuke test. They were probably in the room with us when we did that test, because there was a small group of people on both sides that were trying to do exactly what they did, which was fly swat some bugs out of the sky.
Really, this is the sequence of events. In Germany, they had some crashes. They started doing some advanced work. In World War II, right after World War II, we had some crashes. Maybe Russia had some crashes. Everyone factionalizes around that period of time. Maybe China had some crashes. We cover the whole thing up. No one really knows about it. But what we really did is we went into these incredibly secret places, underground or whatever these bases are, places that are out in Nevada and all over the world, and we started working to come up with a way to protect everybody.
In the back room, puppets stop the creatures from above. You used to read me stories as if my dreams were boring. We all know conspiracies are dumb.